Welcome back to the things we know. Today, we are talking about safety. And before we get into it, we want to acknowledge something because when we say safety, we're not talking about just one thing.
No, we're not. And I want to give a shout out to my friend Nicole, who was the one who actually texted me one day. And I don't know what prompted it. I actually forgot to ask her. I saw her recently and I should ask her next time. But she was like, you know what? Have you ever done an episode about all the ways women have to, all the machinations we have to go through to feel safe in any way, shape, or form? And she is a partner at, oh my God, I'm trying to think at a very PricewaterhouseCoopers. So she is a woman in a man's industry. So I literally don't know what prompted this, but I'm shouting it out only as a thank you to Nicole for giving this to us, but also to remind you guys we would love topics. So if there's
Yes.
ever anything you want us to talk about, please email us at the things we know podcast 23 at gmail.com because we love it when you guys give us topics. So
Yes.
there's the shout out. Again, this is more than just there's not one type of safety, right? This is physical safety, financial safety, emotional safety, political safety. Good God. Relationship safety, bodily autonomy, the safety of being believed, the safety of being able to walk away. You can see why Nicole wanted us to do this topic. I mean, this is about the safety of the resources we rely on to simply live: healthcare, housing, income, um, the people that are supposed to protect us, like the police,
Mm,
the safety of being able to trust our own intuition without being told we are overreacting.
right. And every single one of those require women to run constant background calculation. Is this situation safe? Is this person safe? Is this job safe? Is this relationship safe? Is this country moving in a direction that is safe for me and my body and my future? And the cumulative weight of all of it is its own kind of exhaustion.
I mean, yeah. That's an understatement. And really, this could be a series, and we might do that, like come back and do financial safety versus emotional safety versus political safety as their own conversations. Because in this day and age, I can't believe we're here, but those all deserve like a full hour.
Right. So we do this a lot. If you've stuck with us, you know this. We sometimes go in many different directions, and we probably will. But today we're trying. Our intention is to mostly focus on physical safety. All the calculations we make just moving through the world, where we park, how we walk, what we wear, who we tell when we get home, the mental load of just existing in a body that has been taught correctly that the world is not always safe for it. And that is what we are getting into today.
Mm,
So here's what I want to start with. When, like, just as a question to you, and I'll answer it
yeah.
too. When did you first become aware that you were doing this? Because I think for a lot of women, there is a moment or a series of moments where the scanning stops being something you were taught and it starts being something that just runs automatically in the background. So, like, when did that start for you?
I don't think I have an actual moment, but when I read this question, what I went to was being in college, right? Because in high school, I'm driving everywhere and I'm with a lot of people. But of course, any of us in college, right? We were maybe at the library late, or we were walking home from a frat party, or whatever numerous decisions we made that, if we were men, would not be scary decisions. But because we were women, just innately they were, right? So I just have this like visual of myself, whether it's true or not, of the first time I ever put my keys in between my fingers, walking
Mm.
home from a bar or a party or something down the slant walk at Miami University, going back to my dorm. That's the first like, when you think of those things where you get that whoosh of like memory, that's the first thing I
Yeah.
think of. What about you?
Mm. It's really a good question. This gets into weird stuff, but I feel like early on, maybe in just like the Catholic upbringing and the way my mom was brought up, I got a lot of messages about how I dress will give boys ideas.
Did you go to Catholic school or no?
Not till fifth grade.
Okay.
But I mean, I
So
grew up
did
in
you have a
Catholic church
Sure,
and
sure,
Catholic
sure.
family.
And yeah, we all got that. But I'm like curious, did you have uniforms? Because
Yes,
that's one thing about being at Catholic school. You have a uniform,
I
which
do
is
like
not
it.
particularly sexy.
No,
Although
it's
in
true.
some man's minds it is. But anyways, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah. whatsoever.
Sorry.
So like I feel like that was the initial like uh just scary mystery of like what does that mean? Like what kind of power does my little bathing suit have over somebody? And I say little because like I was young, right? I don't mean
Sure,
like
sure.
teeny bikini or anything. I wasn't allowed to wear
Right.
those, but that was early on. So like that kind of safety was so scary. A kind of lack of or just it wasn't explained, right? It'll just give ideas. But I kind
Mm,
of could start to figure that out. So there was that. And then I think uh I was getting into running and um it was like don't run after dark. We lived in a
yep.
super like the whole idea of safe neighborhoods is so rooted in racism. So I don't even, but like there just wasn't a lot happening in my neighborhood. It was a pretty, sleepy suburb, but still just like those kind of conversations as things like after school specials were coming out and really just implying all the different ways that girls needed to be more careful.
Well, and then to take it to the next generation, like again, Charlotte's known this much. I don't think was super aware of it in high school. I could be wrong because I certainly started going out and seeing bands play at actual bars when I was in high school. So maybe I was aware of it. But Charlotte for sure was. And again, it's partially because she takes public transportation.
Yeah.
But still to this day, I mean, I don't know when this is coming out, but she's still currently living with us. And if she's taking public transportation and she comes in and says goodbye to me, I still, to this day, and I don't feel bad about it, but I'm always like, while you're on the train, like maybe do one more button, like button up sorry, just bit my own
Yes.
lip, like button up just like a little bit more. That was weird. And so, I don't say that because it's like, oh, it's your fault you're dressing this way and you deserve it. But just because I know the fucking
We
world
were
that's out
programmed.
there.
We
Yeah.
were programmed.
And not
And,
wrongly in some ways, right?
and
Like it sucks.
I remember when like we started driving and I was doing like late shifts at a restaurant.
Yeah.
I remember the whole like those stories, like someone could be under your car, someone could
Totally.
be in the back seat, like the
Yep.
scanning of all that stuff.
Yep.
I don't remember, but my brother could tell me differently. I don't remember my brother getting those same warnings.
Oh, I'm sure. Why would he? I mean, again, that's just it, right?
I
Like
mean, any human, male or female, can get jumped, but still, yeah,
totally, but it's not a front of mind, right? And that's the
right,
thing, right? This list is probably longer than most men realize. Like
right.
we've seen these reels about that. But even probably longer than most women realize because it is so automatic. But you're right, like parking lots. So, now that you say that, I worked at a mall when I was in high school, so probably did start thinking about that. But gas stations at night, hotels, which floor are you on? Is there a deadbolt? Where are the exits? Elevators, walking trails, first dates, and now we got ride shares, right? Like we use Waymo here a lot in LA, and I love it because I feel no fear that Charlotte can just take a Waymo, which is
Mm.
a driverless car for those of you who don't live in a city that has them. But again, we're constantly scanning. We're constantly scanning exits, who's behind us, whether our phone has enough battery to call somebody. The UN Women Research found that 9 out of 10 women report feeling unsafe in public spaces. I'm curious about that 10th person because I can't imagine not every woman does. And this is not a personal problem, this is a global condition.
Yeah. Well, and going back to that text me when you get home thing, it's so normalized. We forget what it actually is, right? It
Yep.
is a safety protocol. I can't remember who, it may have come up here or just some other conversation. I don't remember. So you can remind me. But, the amount, might have been when we were in Boston and like seeing Griffin's former caregiver tell me this, but like
Hmm.
walking through a park with a woman, like how he was like, you'll be with me, right? Like, and how kind of misogynistic that was, and then also just not like how her whole demeanor changed and everything about it. Just like he felt like they were in combat, and he was like, God, that was so insensitive of me. And I didn't realize till afterwards that walking through a park at night, even with me, just brings up all the things you're like programmed not to do.
And
It's
the
just,
reality of it is, it's just because you are with one guy. I mean, I have been in situations, it's a funny story, but like where Liam and Irina were walking down the street, Darren and I were behind them, but far enough behind them that this person didn't even realize that we were part of them. But he started circling Liam and Irina and
I remember
like,
this.
remember, and like catcalling her. Liam is literally with her, and it did not matter. And then this is the funny part where Darren yelled out, "Women don't like that."
I loved
And Liam and Irene were like,
so
"Oh
good.
my God, that's gonna go down in history." But I think that's, and then I remember a time Charlotte telling me when she was dating her boyfriend in high school, and they were walking from the train to school, and she. I don't know if this was an active conversation that she asked him to pay attention to, but Jamie like got by the time they got to school, he was like, holy shit, the amount of guys that's head swirled, sort of again, catcalling, and she was with her boyfriend. Like, it doesn't
Right.
even matter when a man is with you.
Right. And the thing is like, and we're going to get into this, and there is a place here where I want to get back to some of Charlotte stuff, but there is a thing here, and I'm glad it has come up a lot recently because there's some really great demonstrations of this. Like, here is a bowl of chocolates. Two of them are shit, actually. Do you want to risk eating these chocolates? Do you want these chocolates? Like, yeah, no, thanks. Like, I don't, we aren't overreacting. Like, all those things that happened to Charlotte, she doesn't know which of them are just disrespectful cackles and which ones are like, oh, if I give this, attention, I might be unsafe. Like, right.
Right.
So the thing is, someone could listen to this and be like, I'm sure most of it was harmless. How do we know? We don't. So, like, and also just these calculations, this whole like checking in with each other and thinking about things. And did you get home safely? Like, it is mentally exhaustive. It takes energy, attention, staying awake, just cognitive bandwidth. And it's so automatic that we don't even count them as labor, but they are. Like, it really takes a toll.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the cost because again, I think we undername this because it is so automatic. The mental load of safety is not just the inconvenience of checking your back seat before you get in the car. It's the part of your brain that literally never goes offline. So,
Mhm.
like, what does that feel like for you? That sort of low hum of alertness that never goes quiet.
Well, I I have it so deeply entrenched in me just from growing up a woman, but also and we drove so much. I was always like driving on freeways and stuff like that. So, when car things happened and you're like in a part like you're just in a part of the freeway or part like an area you don't know like where the closest thing is. I remember
Yeah.
just being extra afraid of that kind of stuff. But where I recognize it is the way I'm constantly having to be vigilant about Griffin. It just reminds me of the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a constant like, oh, I hope this goes okay, or like, I hope this is safe, right? So that's that quiet hum. Just like I feel everything tense at the end of the day. And I am,
Mm.
as you know, I am not someone who walks around worried. I just never, I was never that kind of mom. Of course, I had boys, not girls. So like teenager boys are arguably, I worry less than probably moms of teenage girls, but I still worry about them driving and worry about safety and, are people making good decisions? And all of that comes from what my body learned to do to be vigilant. So um, I think I'm not a worrier, but there's stuff that I didn't notice that when I feel the relief that a girlfriend says, oh, I'm home, I'm like, oh God, I was worrying. And I didn't think I was.
Yeah, no, I
So it's
totally get that.
subconscious.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so when we talk about a low level of stress, right? Right there, we have this constant low level of stress that is our baseline before anything else in our life is stressful because we are always on high alert no matter what age you are. And to your point, like I have Liam and Charlotte and I know I didn't do this shit with Liam. I know
Mm-hmm.
it. It's and when Charlotte got to be that age, um, essentially high school, right? I I was very aware that I never worried about this stuff for Liam, but I just didn't. I just didn't.
Mm.
It's crazy.
I mean, yeah,
I mean,
there's
it's
other
not
things, but
crazy,
it's
but it's
funny.
like it's that
Yeah.
genderness.
Yeah, like the gender identifying stuff for sure.
Hmm.
The other thing I don't want to slide past is acknowledging that this is just kind of in us, whether we realize it or not. Like being conscious of worrying, I didn't think I was. What I realized is my subconscious
Yeah.
brain going on. Acknowledging it is not the same as accepting responsibility for the conditions that created it, because women did not create the danger. We adapted to it, and they're very different things. And yet, almost all safety advice is directed at women. And we have talked about this on other pods. And this is like, luckily, well, again, we're going to come back to this. I have a cousin who currently lives in Florida who was living in Kentucky. And she's like, you two talk from a bubble. And we realize this. So, in the conversations we're in and the people we follow, there's a lot about this,
Mm.
luckily, but maybe it's just not out there in the mainstream enough. But, and the thing is, you know, like we keep saying like, don't dress a certain way, don't wear your hair in a ponytail, someone might, don't do this, like, don't wear that, you're going to be unsafe. And then like, you're going to get attacked, don't trust men. And then when we actually do get attacked, then they don't believe us. Right.
Yep.
So it's like, it was my responsibility. And like, we still, in a court of law, many judges like, what were you wearing? Right.
Yep.
And going into that bullshit. Right. So we adapted to it. We have like adapted to like, the responsibility is what I wear, where I walk, what time I did it, how I hold my keys, how not to get myself into a situation, everything that like Charlotte had to scan on the way to high school every day. Right.
Yep.
Um, there's a woman named Rebecca Solnit. She wrote that violence against women is so normalized, it gets treated like weather, just a condition of the environment, rather than a policy failure that society chose not to fix, as if the situation is ours to manage rather than society's to address. And that's what I'm glad is out again, maybe just in our bubble, which is it? Like, if all the responsibility is on us to stay safe and men aren't doing it, then why are you telling us to be safe? Why are you telling us to take all this responsibility? Who's actually responsible for this? Because we are teaching girls, we are not doing enough teaching boys.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So two things come to mind when you say that. Like, I appreciate that we're in a bubble, but if anything we've ever talked about, you're like, I don't know anybody talking about that, then look it up. Because there are places to find the conversations we're having. Maybe you're in a bubble that you should get out of. And then secondly, I would say because we're recording this the same week that imposter syndrome's coming out, it's a similar situation, right? The idea that imposter syndrome is ours to carry versus blaming the systems that created the systems that we don't fit into, and so we think, oh well, we're an imposter, we don't have the capabilities for this. So it's the same situation, right? Blaming us, teaching us how to keep ourselves safe, but then when we aren't safe, we didn't attack our damn selves, a man attacked whoever it is. So yeah. Whew, so
Yeah,
why
and
is
like,
it always aimed at us?
right, like, what the subtitle for this, besides just like the cost of safety, is like the freedom tax, right? And I do want to get
Totally.
into that, like
Mm.
the opportunities we have quietly passed on
Mm.
because safety was part of the equation. So like the run you would love to take, but it's too dark out. The solo road trip you keep almost deciding to do, but like, just there was that voice that creeps in and like, well, what if? Like, what if my car broke down? Like all that stuff. The
Yeah.
concert you left early because the parking lot felt wrong, or because someone was like being just a little too close, or was just paying too much attention. Because there's that. Like I was just reading an article, I think it was in New York Times, about like a woman who was like getting on a plane, and some man just you know, like kept bumping into her and sat near her. And they found out later he had just bought the ticket. Like, luckily, she listened to that instinct and got help from the flight
Wow.
attendant. But like, these things are real, these things happen. So, like,
Yep.
the solo road trip, the concert you left early, the hike you didn't do alone, or the hike you did do alone and you just blame yourself for how you felt, right?
Mm.
I once got to Palm Springs after like a work trip we had. Went to Palm Springs to meet up with friends, and I was there like a day and a half early. So before everyone came in, I rented the car that we were all going to use. But I went out to Joshua Tree just because I wanted to see it, and I drove through it and went on some hikes and on like four different trails in a row, the same guys, and I was like, nobody knows I'm here. This is so dumb. Like the shame was like, I was ashamed that I didn't plan that well instead of like, that's fucked
Yeah.
up. Why are they doing this to me? May be nothing, but they were just like, why did we keep it? Like I wasn't going in order, you know? Anyway, the extra hour you would have stayed at the party, traveling alone internationally, staying late. I've done that alone, but staying late at the office to finish something you cared about. Those things, like I have stories about all those. What about you?
Hmm.
Like, what does safety cost you in terms of actual choices?
Gosh, I don't know that I would say it cost me anything per se, but the thing that keeps striking me, and as you're saying some of this stuff, and your Joshua Tree is a perfect example of this. Nothing. So what I'm hearing is there, but by the grace of goddess, nothing happened with those in those when you were hiking, right? So I have a story with my friend Laurie and our friend Chris. The three of us drove from Dayton to Chicago in 1991 to go to the Jazz Fest. And we had nowhere to stay. We were literally, I mean, we were 21, just being stupid. I'm using air quotes for those of you who are not watching this. And yet we had the most spectacular weekend. So fun, so random. But when I look, Laurie and I, in particularly, because we still are close friends, we laugh about how many dumb mistakes we made. We met guys at the Jazz Fest, and then we ended up going to a party with them. And then we didn't know our way around Chicago. We ended up walking from what I think was Lincoln Park at the, I mean, I just don't remember because it was so long ago. And I was unaware of Chicago at the time. We walked from Lincoln Park back downtown to our car, and then we drove home that same night and ended up at a rest stop so we could all sleep. So I say all of that, and Laurie and I constantly go, "Oh my God, I cannot believe we survived that weekend." There's no way that if three men had that same trip, that they would go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I survived that weekend." But we just automatically think of that weekend and go, how did we not, how did something bad not happen to us? So it's not that that cost me anything because we had it, but it's a memory that is tainted because I will always think, there, but for the grace of God, we got through that weekend. Does that make sense?
Yes. Oh, yeah. But isn't it interesting that we look back at things and we feel relieved that we get to tell that story and nothing bad happened?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
because I've been sitting with this a lot. I think I've told you this too. On another project, short-term podcast. It's just just the theme of my life, me and all guys um, from college, and really nice guys. And what we're doing, gearing up for our 35th reunion, is doing like little mini podcasts, just getting caught up with people. And partly my response to it at first was like, God, I'm jealous. The guys have so many more fun stories. They were way more fun, right? Like, why does it seem like they had way more fun? Why didn't I have enough fun? And then finally, like, I was talking to other girlfriends because they were having the same reaction hearing some of these stories. Is like, we couldn't afford that kind of stupid fun. And I'm not saying these guys are
Exactly.
stupid, but like that kind of stupid fun, especially that the 80s was full of, like, we had the luxury of our privilege and ignorance, right?
Yeah.
But there was a lot of just stupid, dumb fun that young people would get into back then, when there was even less of a connection on the internet to be more clued
Yeah.
in. And I finally like was seeing the pattern and noticing that women were feeling the same way. And so I said to them, like, I think what you don't realize was like, yes, there were moments, especially insulated, like on like the women's volleyball team, or like, sure, when like there was total safety like around it, dumb shit happened. I'm not saying women were always super mature, but in general, that had to be really protected and insulated. In general, we couldn't do it. We risked physical safety and we risked a lot of judgment and reputation, at least at a Catholic university, in ways that could follow us. And yeah, luckily we weren't on being filmed on phones, but there were still stories about people that went around that were probably not even true.
Yeah.
So what struck me was they had never thought about it before. When I pointed it out, they totally got it. and
The
I
men, you
think,
mean? You're
yeah,
pointing this out to the
yeah.
men.
When I
Yeah.
pointed out, they were like, "Ugh," and they felt really sad about it. Like, oh
Yeah.
God, they were sad that they themselves didn't recognize that at the time. And they were sad because most of them I'm talking to, all of them have daughters. And they were like, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's just it, right? Like, to this whole point and me looking back to you, like we look back on those years and remember the math we were doing that in our heads, the calculations. And unfortunately, again, girls are still doing this and it's not going to end anytime soon. And in some ways, it feels even more heightened now than ever. This also makes me think, and I wish I had it, but it's somewhere and I buried. But you and I have talked about this right after this last election, presidential election. Charlotte was tasked at school with writing a report or like a reaction to a play that she had seen, and it was all tied to this idea of the safety that
I
the
remember.
things the girls do at parties, and how now we were in a because right after the election there was a lot of the Nick Fuentes people, saying your body, my choice, and all that crap. And so it's like it's gotten heightened all over again, right? With the
Yes.
manosphere and all this stuff. And so, like, it was bad for us, but I actually think it's gotten even worse. I have
I
not
had
seen
space to
manosphere.
put,
Have you?
yes.
Yeah,
If
I
I had
thought so.
space to like put my elbows down, I think I'd just be buried in here.
But,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, I mean, no, I was going to say we can turn this here, but do you have something else you want to say about that?
No, I mean, we're getting to it. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's turn it, right? Because again, after years of making these calculations, I think there's another question worth asking, which is what has all this scanning taught us and what has it built in us? Let's talk about the
Yeah.
powerful part.
Okay. Because we spent years reading rooms, reading people, reading situations, covering drinks. We forgot to mention that
Oh
because
yeah.
that's just such a thing. I think that, like, and it's not because we necessarily wanted to, it's because we had to, right?
Yeah. And again, over time, this is what we sort of call intuition. It's not something mystical, but it's really pattern recognition built from years of paying attention. And it's a skill, even if it came from an unfair place. And it's incredibly important because back to where we started, when we trust our intuition, we can be told we're overreacting, right? So, but it's so important. If something doesn't feel right, believe it.
Mm, yeah. Um, okay. Did you want to mention Roxane Gay
Sure. Yeah.
or
Roxane
okay.
Gay wrote in Bad Feminist, and we're going to be talking about feminism here in a couple of weeks, but she wrote in Bad Feminist about the layered exhaustion of navigating public spaces when your body's being read and addressed. Oh, it's so frustrating to even talk about it before
Mm,
you even open your mouth, right? And this is not about gender. It's about every way a body can be marked as other, right? So it's women of color, it is LGBTQ, it is anything that is not white, cisgendered, straight, male. So the calculations are not the same for every woman, and that is worth sitting with.
yeah. God, there's so much I want to say on everything you're saying. I want to go in a million directions because as we speak, I just sent my family, compilation of videos of like speakers, mostly on podcasts, with huge audiences, way bigger than ours, that are really strongly, suggesting women shouldn't be voting. And so it's just
Oh,
exhausting,
I
right?
know.
But Claudia Rankin wrote an entire book called Citizen about what it feels like to exist in a body that is constantly being read before it speaks. And the exhaustion of that never going away. It's not a single quote kind of book, it's the whole experience of it. And if you haven't read it, I'll put it in the show notes. But really, truly, it's constant how I was just thinking about this and I don't know if this totally applies, you can maybe help me link it, but do you remember when I was going through the remodel and I had to navigate
Yes.
between these two really strong kind of ridiculously temperamental male
Emotional?
male egos, yeah,
Yes.
emotional male egos, and how Miles observed me, like
Hmm.
he could hear them, like one yelling and then the other, and me calmly walking through it. And then I was shaking afterwards, and he was like, "What was that?" I'm like, like lifetime of training. My bathroom is gutted right
Mm.
now, so rather than put them in their place and really like you know kind of take a stand about the way they're behaving with me and with each other, I just literally had to navigate their egos to get what I wanted, which feels dirty and gross, but is also the best way I could remain like safe in that professional relationship with them.
A million
Was
percent.
to just not go after anywhere they were going to feel really vulnerable, because that wasn't really worth my time. But
Right.
that isn't fair, and it certainly wasn't what they deserved.
No.
And like I think that that's the exhaustion of it too. Like it's just all of it. Like I have to like monitor my safety and your ego.
Totally. Yeah. No, I mean, I just saw a memory the other day about when I was with a friend of ours, Aaron, excuse me, at one of my favorite watering holes here in downtown LA. And she and I were having a conversation, and a guy next to me decided to pull my attention and talk to me, even though I was actively with Aaron. And he was, yeah, all the,
That
oh, you're
happens to
beautiful,
you all
blah,
the
blah,
time.
blah. And but all of this to say, in reading the post I made about it, I was talking about how the bartender got in and actually made the guy stop talking to me. Like, he'd say, "You're getting too close to her, buddy," and the guy was like, "Am I getting too close to you?" And the bartender was like, "Don't ask her that. You're going to make her uncomfortable." And my point in retelling the story was I would have answered. Like Evan, the bartender, got in, answered the question before I could, because what I would have done is been like, oh no, I'm fine. Again, in the essence of speeding it up, buddy. Like, let's just finish this off. And I was just so enamored by Evan because he just took the bull by the horns and ultimately threw the guy out. But that's that
Yeah.
same kind of thing, right? Of just like we you any that's another one of those calculations of, and I think we've talked about this too. Like Darren will say, well, just don't talk to him. Like, it doesn't work that way, because if you don't
Mhm.
talk to him, you risk them getting angrier and now actually being violent in some ways. So
Yeah.
every conversation with a man you don't know is this weighing of how long do I talk? How long do I stay? I get it. I have women friends who are like, no, you just say, I'm not talking to you, and you walk away. Okay. Great. That's an option, but it's not one I have employed. And it's not one Charlotte feels safe in employing at this point either.
No, I agree. And I don't know. Like I was just thinking we were going to ask each other, have you ever ignored your intuition and wish you hadn't? Yeah. Yeah. Because of that very thing. Because it's like my intuition tells me you might be sleazy. You might not. Like probably more than often than not, people are just, trying to be friendly. But I've definitely gotten in elevators and been like, oh, like, like I should probably have risked, you know, seeming rude to like take the next elevator or something like that. I don't know. What about you?
Uh, this story keeps coming up in my head, and I don't know that it fits here, but it is part of this story about being safe, which is when Darren and I lived in Chicago, our very first year. There was a little, so we didn't have kids. We were in our late 20s, and I was a runner as well. And there was this park down the street that I could run around 4 times, and it was like a nice little run. And Darren was actually the one that said, there's always cars parked. You should look at into, kind of as you're running, just keep your eyes on the cars as you're running. And so I did. And at one point, I looked into a car and a guy was jacking off. And and I kept going because I think I was a little like stunned. I was like, did I actually see that? And the worst part is he was looking at all the children playing. So it
Oh
was a,
God.
it was a whole lot. It was a whole lot of an experience. But I remember being like, great, now I can't run here anymore. Like it wasn't, I was actually doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was keeping my eyes out, but now my run was ruined. It's burned into my memory. And I just never did that run again, because I was like, well, not, I don't want to see that again, you know?
Oh my God. You just brought back a memory for me when my all girls Catholic school, like my junior class was heading up to the mountains for a retreat and we were stuck in traffic, in LA or something. And Yeah. Everyone's like, look down, like some guy was like, and
Yep.
obviously we're in a bus, so he knew we could all see him.
Hmm.
Strange.
Hmm.
So gross.
I know.
Um,
I know.
and like, so this whole idea back to like we're socialized to be polite, it kind of reminds me of everything we're seeing in that deconstructing evangelical world, like all the purity culture stuff
Yeah.
and all the like females being groomed to be supportive and, and kind is very it like opens the door to gaslighting and danger. Like
Million
so
percent.
when women call it out, especially in those areas, and definitely when I was growing up, not only are you not believed, you're told you're overreacting, you're being too sensitive, you're imagining things, be nice, give him another chance. He was probably just being friendly, like every single one of them is telling you distrust the instinct that exists to protect you.
Mm.
And it starts so early. At least it did in our generation and probably still happening in those cultures I'm referring to, and many, many cultures. Like girls are socialized to be agreeable. That makes them unsafe sometimes, right? Not make a scene, give people the benefit of the doubt. What it does over time is create that gap between what a woman feels and what she's allowed, like what she's allowing herself to act on. And that's dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're socialized out of trusting our intuition, and it just, yeah. So here's a question we want to leave you with, and we mean this genuinely. We want you to actually sit with it. If you were not spending that much energy scanning, calculating, managing, adapting, what would you do with it? What would you create? Where would you go? What would you try that you haven't tried? What would you enjoy more fully because some part of your brain is not running on the background safety check the entire time? I don't know the answer to that because I don't even know if it's quantifiable how many hours we would get back in our life because it's so, because it's so subconscious. I just, I would love to like know that.
I know. I would love to like just kind of do a Freaky Friday into a male body and see what that feels like. It kind of reminds me of, Sex in the City. Like, I'm going to have sex like a man, like not care. Like, how do
Yes.
we go out and, I mean, again, like it's not like I never worry about their safety, but I have
Right.
I don't have those kind of concerns. And I don't think we're going to answer those questions for you that Lisa just asked because I think your answer is different from ours. And we think it deserves real thought, really. It's not a quick answer, it's not a real one, depending on the messages you received. I mean, I think a lot of millennials and Gen Z are definitely have less um, cluelessness around that than we maybe did. I don't know. Like they're aware that it's messed up, but then
Oh,
I don't
yeah. But it doesn't change anything just because they're aware that it's messed up. Like, yes, I think you're right. I think they're aware
Yes.
of the, uh, again, this kind of feels like our bubble. I think when I think about the bubble piece, I think it's the way we talk about our boys and the men we know because we are in a bubble of really good
That's true.
men. So I think of like Charlotte's guy friends, Liam and his guy friends. And I'm like, these guys are all pretty, like, they understand the genderness of this. That's the piece I think. That's where I feel like I'm in a bubble for sure, which is probably one of the reasons I haven't watched Manosphere because I was like, don't burst my bubble. I have hope.
Yeah, I do think like one of the real like vigilance definitely. I remember a comedian who's now disgraced, so I won't really quote him, but saying, when I married my wife, she was a beautiful woman, and over time her face was just like this. And I do think that vigilance costs you,
Hmm.
like because you're so much more free to be creative and have fun and do the stupid fun shit,
Yeah.
and all of that if your energy isn't going to that. So I encourage everyone to think about that and like really kind of take some of that power back. I don't know
Mm,
how though.
yeah. But hey, acknowledging is the first step in anything. So just really thinking about that. Um, all
Song.
right. So our song, you asked me to find one, and I unfortunately found the perfect song. So I want to tell the story behind it. So this song was written recently, and now I think it's just called "She Should Have Been Safe." I
Mm.
don't have it right here in front of me. It's written by a country artist that I've never heard of, but he wrote this song based on this story that happened in 2025. a woman, 20-year-old woman named Amber Check, who worked as a welder at a manufacturing facility in Cokato, Minnesota. She had been a welder for years. She taught welding back at her high school. And so she has this job as a welder. And while she was at work, her workstation one day, a man she worked with walked over to her, picked up a sledgehammer, and bludgeoned her to death. And
Jeez.
he later told law enforcement he simply did not like her and had been planning to murder her for some time. As the news spread, I'm reading this. This comes from 19thnews.org. As the news spread around social media, stories poured in on Instagram and TikTok from tradeswomen expressing their anger and frustration. Over the last week, they've shared their own experiences of working with men who threatened them, made sexual advances, or joked about their incompetence. And they pondered how their story could have ended differently, how their life could have ended like Check's. So, Amber Check. So this is the lyrics from this song, She Should Have Been Safe. It says, no woman should fear the man down the aisle. She should have been safe. She should have stayed a while. Women in trades fight battles. Most never see the comments, the whispers, the quiet hostility. They walk through the shop with their keys in their fist. Ignore the looks, pretend the warnings don't exist. They smile to survive, laugh off a threat, say I'm fine, even though the fear never rests. She earned her place through sweat and pride, but no one outworks a monster that hides.
Dang.
I
When
know.
I was writing the outline for this, I was like, how do we end on an empowered note?
I mean, well, because again, I think, yeah, that's always our intention. But here's the thing, right? It goes back to what we've been saying from, I know, Sad Panda. It goes back to the beginning, like, or even your last question. What I would love people to take away from this, if you're a man listening to this, I want you to understand that you have literally no idea what we go through from the day we are aware until the day we die. It does not matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what trade you're in. We just have no choice. We actually actively have to walk through life this way to stay safe. And so if you're a man or you're a mother of boys, I want to invite you to have this conversation with the men in your life. Yes, you've got to train your daughters to be aware. And it sucks and it's not going to change in our lifetime. But let's talk to the boys because that's
Yeah.
really where it lies. And if you have good boys, and I hate to even say that because, like, what does that mean? But it's like,
Mm.
even if you think, oh, my boy's a good boy, he won't do it. He still needs to know what his girlfriends, partners, sisters are going through
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
going back to the idea of like, oh, but you're safe because you're with me. It's not a thing. It's just not a fucking
No.
thing.
And this is not something I was planning on saying, but I feel like I need to slot this in here. There's a lot of conversation in current leadership about protecting women, and that is not the same thing as what Lisa's just said. There is the same people who talk about protecting women and want to pass laws to protect women are actually taking away their physical safety around pregnancy. They're taking away their safety and protection around just victims' rights. But worse, they're actually perpetrators themselves.
Yep.
So, like, also conditioning women to not question them. So, really step back from when you're looking at this subject. And while it is like upon men and women raising men to like teach them that it's their issue, like that they shouldn't want to exist in a world where they look like good guys just because they're not bad guys.
Right.
um, it is really, really important that we see how all of this is setting women up to continue to be unsafe and to continue taking responsibility for things they have no control over. So I just, again, from
And
the bubble, reporting from the bubble.
that's how we should end this from now on. And I love that your cousin pointed that out because we are going to do a deeper dive on that. I think
Yeah.
it's a really important thing for you and I to be, we weren't unaware of it, but I really, really appreciated that. So it sounds like we're making fun and we're 100% not.
No.
But the reality of it is, yes, I think you said something that was that struck me, and now I've sort of lost my train of thought around it. But um, I guess I'm thinking to myself, sort of what you were saying. I'm thinking probably the people that need to hear this the most are not the ones that listen to us,
I
which again
know.
goes back to the bubble. That being said, you probably have someone in your life who whether woman or man, who thinks that what's happening in the world is fine. And again, the idea of they're just trying to make us safe. They're not. They're actually making us less safe and passing laws about gendered bathrooms or trans women in sports. Fuck that noise. That is absolutely not what is our problem these days. There is not a
Yeah.
trans woman on this earth that threatens my existence the way a man does.
And they
So
are most often the victims. Yeah.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
men haven't been waiting to get into the bathroom to commit the amount of atrocities that are being committed
Right.
against women every day. So that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
That's infuriating.
Yeah.
Also, I guess another thing that just occurred to me is like, just like we have internalized, racism, there's internalized misogyny. Think about the messages you're actually giving your daughters and your
Yeah.
nieces, and just notice that when you're worried about their safety, like have the conversation about how it's really not their responsibility. I'm not saying don't warn them, but really,
Right.
really help add to that conversation how fucked up it is.
Yeah. Which I did say to Charlotte. Like, I'm not
I know.
saying, I've said to Charlotte, it's not that you look beautiful. You should wear whatever you wear. Just know that this is the world we live in. And so
Yeah.
it is always part of that conversation for sure.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
not one of
right.
our most empowering, like uplifting. But hey, it is what it is. And it's an important conversation to have. So again, shout out to Nicole for pointing it out and suggesting it to us. And I do want to come back and talk about the other ways that women are unsafe. And not necessarily from the patriarchy, not necessarily from men.
Yeah. And also, I do find it empowering to just know that it's
True.
not our fault.
Agreed.
Just a
There you
reminder.
go. There you go.
Yeah.
I love it. There's our empower. This is not your fault, and stay safe.
Yes.
Thanks everyone as always for listening, and we would love to know if you're listening to us on Spotify, we have open comments, so please feel free to throw a story or a comment in, or again, if you have a new topic idea,
Yeah.
we're always cranking them out, but at the same time, we love it when somebody gives us one. So
Yes. And also just, if this moves you in any way, or you have a friend who still doesn't understand why you text when you get home, send them this. We
yeah,
love to get new listeners. And
yeah.
thanks for being here.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.